does this lullaby remind you of? Your infancy, right? The only period in your life where you can spend all days and nights sleeping. So let's talk about sleep today, the most desirable things in modern days. So guys, what is sleep? We approximately spend 8 hours a day, 56 hours a week, 240 hours a month, 2,920 hours a year doing it. We apparently spend about 1/3 of our lives doing nothing. But is sleep really doing nothing? It looks like it. Our eyes are closed, our muscles are relaxed, our breathing is regular, and we do not respond to sound or light. But if you take a look at what is happening inside of the brain, you will find quite a different situation, that the brain is very active. Nerve signaling chemicals called neurotransmitters control whether we are asleep or awake. By acting on different groups of nerve cells or neurons in the brain. Neurons in the brainstem, which connects the brain with the spinal cord, produces neurotransmitters such as serotonin and norepinephrine that keep some parts of the brain active while we are awake. Other neurons at the base of the brain begin signaling while we fall asleep. These neurons appear to switch off the signals that keep us awake. Also, a chemical called adenosine builds up in our blood while we are awake and causes drowsiness. This chemical gradually breaks down while we sleep. While we are asleep, our brains are on a bit of roller coaster through 5 different stages of sleep. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and lastly, rapid eye movement sleep. These stages progress in a cycle from stage 1 to rapid eye movement sleep. Then the cycle starts over again with stage 1. In an 8-hour period of sleep, the brain cycles through these stages about 4 to 5 times. During stage 1, which is a light sleep, we drift in and out of sleep very quickly and can be awakened easily. Our eyes move very slowly and muscle activity slows. People awaken from stage 1 sleep often remember fragmented visual image. Many also experience sudden muscle contractions called hypomyoclonia, often preceded by a sensation of starting to fall. These sudden movements are similar to the jump we make when startled. When we enter stage 2 sleep, our eye movements stop and our brain waves become slower, with occasional bursts of rapid waves called sleep spindles. In stage 3, extremely slow brain waves called delta waves begin to appear, interspersed with smaller, faster waves. By stage 4, the brain produces delta waves almost exclusively. It is very difficult to wake someone during stage 3 and stage 4, which altogether are called deep sleep. There is no eye movement or muscle activity. People awaken during deep sleep do not adjust immediately and always feel groggy and disorientated for several minutes after they wake up. Some children experience bedwetting, night terrors, or sleepwalking during deep sleep. When we switch into rapid eye movement sleep, our breathing becomes more rapid, irregular, and shallow. Our eyes jerk rapidly in various directions, and our limb muscles become temporarily paralyzed. Our heart rate increases while our blood pressure rises. When people awaken during REM sleep, they often describe bizarre and illogical tales dreams. The first REM sleep period usually occurs about 70 to 90 minutes after we fall asleep. A complete sleep cycle takes 90 to 110 minutes on average. The first sleep cycle each night contains relatively short REM periods and long periods of deep sleep. However, as the night progresses, REM periods increases in length, while deep sleep decreases in length. By morning, most people have spent nearly all their sleep time in stage 1, 2, and REM. People lose some of the ability to regulate their body temperature during REM. So, abnormally hot or cold temperature could disrupt this stage of sleep. If our REM sleep is disrupted one night, our body don't follow the normal sleep cycle progression the next time we doze off. Instead, we often slip directly into REM sleep and go through extended periods of REM until we catch up on this stage of sleep. Most of us set our alarm clocks in the morning, but do you find it odd that sometimes when you wake up, you find yourself groggy and disorientated, even though you just had a full night's sleep? While sometimes when we wake up, we find ourselves more energetic and refreshed, even though we stayed up late the night before. Well, this phenomenon has to do with sleep cycle. If you feel groggy, that's because your alarm clock wakes you up in the middle of your deep sleep. But if you feel energetic, you are probably in your REM sleep while your alarm clock goes off. Don't worry, let me teach you a simple and smart solution. If you want to make morning less painful, or if you know you only have a limited time for sleep, try setting a wake-up time that's a multiple of 90 minutes, the length of the average sleep cycle. For example, if you go to sleep at 10 p.m., then set your alarm for 5:30, a total of 7.5 hours sleep instead of 6 or 6:30. You may feel more refreshed at 5:30 than with another 30 or 60 minutes of sleep because you are getting up at the end of the sleep cycle when your body and brain are already close to wakefulness. This is the savannah at night. Imagine that you are sleeping on the grass while a lion is approaching you, but you're still in your sweet dream eating a chocolate cake. Wow, that's dangerous. Then why do we sleep? Sleep has to have a basic evolutionary function, right? Otherwise, it would have been eliminated completely. It turns out that the brain uses sleep to wash away the waste toxins built up during a hard day thinking. As your body sleeps, your brain is quite actively playing the part of mental janitor. It's clearing out all the junk that has accumulated as a result of your daily thinking. In the body, the clearance of the waste is controlled by the lymphatic system, the second parallel network of vessels that extend throughout the body. And here's a diagram. The proteins and waste between the cells are dumped into the blood by the lymphatic system. However, there's a problem with this. Do you see that? Yes, there's no lymphatic vessels within the brain. The approach of the rest of the body to clear the waste is quite different from the brain's solution to waste clearance. The brain is enclosed in a rigid skull and is packed full of cells, so there's no extra space inside it for a whole second set of vessels like the lymphatic vessels. Instead, the brain uses cerebrospinal fluid, also called CSF, to clear its waste. Large pool of clean CSF fills the space around the brain, and the waste from inside the brain make their way out to the CSF, which gets dumped into the blood. But the fluid and the waste inside the brain don't just percolate their way randomly out to these pools of CSF. Instead, specialized network plumbing organizes and facilitates this process. The CSF was pumped back into and through the brain, along the blood vessels, down to reach every cell of the brain, and as it flushed down into the brain along the outside of these vessels, it was actually helping to clean the waste from the spaces between the brain cells. But this process of the fluid rushing through the brain only happens in the sleeping brain. As you can see in these pictures, in the waking brain, there's hardly any CSF throughout the brain. However, things change quite differently after the brain falls asleep. The CSF rushes frantically throughout the brain. Also, when the brain goes to sleep, the brain cells themselves seem to shrink, opening spaces between them, allowing more fluid to rush through and allowing ways to be cleared out. Among all kinds of the ways that is cleared by CSF is the amyloid beta protein, and the clearing away of which is the key concept in preventing Alzheimer's disease. In Alzheimer's disease, CSF builds up and aggregates in spaces instead of being cleared away. Scientists have found that the clearance of amyloid beta protein is much more rapid in a sleeping brain than in an awakened brain. Thus, they conclude that the failure of the brain to keep its house clean by clearing away waste like amyloid beta may contribute to conditions like Alzheimer's disease. Actually, you can think of the whole process in a really simple way. You can think of it as having a house party. You can either entertain the guests or clean up the house, but you can't really do both at the same time. Also, sleeping is really important for our physical health. Our bodies all require long periods of sleep in order to restore and rejuvenate, synthesize hormones, repair tissues, and grow muscles. For example, body cells show increased production and reduced breakdown of proteins, especially during deep sleep. Since proteins are the building blocks needed for cell growth and for repair of damage from factors like stress and ultraviolet rays, deep sleep may truly be the beauty sleep. So, what are some consequences from lack of sleep? First, sleep deficiency increases the risk of obesity. Insulin is a hormone that controls the blood's glucose level. Its job is to help the body use glucose for energy. The body's reaction to sleep loss resembles insulin resistance, a precursor to diabetes. In insulin resistance, cell fails to use the hormone efficiently, resulting in high blood sugar. Diabetes occurs when the body does not produce enough insulin, or the cell do not properly use the insulin. When insulin is not doing its job, high blood sugar levels build in the body to the point where they can harm the eyes, kidneys, nerve, or heart. Sleep also helps maintain a healthy balance of hormones that makes you feel hungry, ghrelin, or full leptin. Leptin is produced by fat cells. Low levels of it are a signal of starvation and a need for bigger appetite. Ghrelin, on the other hand, is produced by the stomach and is appetite stimulant. The more ghrelin you have, the more you want to eat. When you don't get enough sleep, your level of ghrelin goes up while your level of leptin goes down. This makes you feel hungrier than when you are well rested. I know that by now many of you might have the question that how many hours of sleep do we really need? So over a typical lifespan, the amount of the time we spend each day sleeping declines. For newborns, the recommended amount of sleep is about 16 to 18 hours a day. For preschool aged children, is about 11 to 12 hours a day. For school aged children, at least 10 hours a day. For teens, which is us, 9 to 10 hours a day. For adults, including the elderly, 7 to 8 hours a day. After this tutorial, how many of you still want to stay up late?